So we're on the topic of what you need to know about prayer, and we're in the subtopic of how to maintain strong intent during prayer. And I'll be open about this. I struggle with this. Maybe it's because like I'm a philosophy major, so I'm just like thinking about different things. It's sometimes hard for me to focus. I'm not once have I been the one who like announced to everybody, everybody remember Ya'aleh v'yavo in the middle of prayer, and then I forget it myself even after I've announced it. So I struggle with this. So I have a few techniques that work for me in maintaining my intention. So I'll just share a few of them with you, maybe today and the next time. One technique for me that helps me kind of zone in is bodily movement. Okay, so you've probably seen this motion before. Anyone know what the name of that is? Shuckling. Okay, apparently it's a Yiddish word, apparently. Yeah, what does it mean? Swaying? Shaking. Okay, so shuckling. Now, when I didn't grow up with observance. When I first saw this in yeshiva, it looked like chickens or roosters kind of like moving. I didn't know, when you see it from the outside, it looks weird. Yeah, I mean, there was this one guy in my yeshiva who was like extremely expressive. Like he was next to the wall. He was like banging. So different people have different movements that work for them. For me, it works. Like I do it and I feel like it arouses. I do it on the assumption that the body's connected to the soul and the individual's like a holistic being. So if you arouse your body, it can arouse your heart as well. And for me, that works. Some rabbis do the opposite. I think the Lubavitcher Rebbe apparently didn't sway. That's what I saw. And some rabbis just stood still. And that's what worked for them. So find what works for you. For me also, it's weird. I don't know if anybody really does this, but for me, this is what helps. I do this thing sometimes with my hands where I'll just point my finger into my palm. Because otherwise, sometimes like my mind just like, it goes to different places. This like centers me. Just giving you an example. Sometimes you need techniques to help you focus. That helps me focus. That's like in the moment. Another tip before davening, and this is pretty straightforward, is basically to learn about davening. And it takes a little bit longer than just rocking back and forth. But there are two parts to this. One is to learn what you're saying. It's like learn what you're saying, to go through it, learn the English. And see what you're saying. And also a deeper level, it's like connect to the principles behind the davening. Sometimes they're foreign. And you're learning about Jerusalem, you're learning about the temple, you're learning about all these topics that seem like kind of foreign or you don't always connect to. So find a pathway, or God. You're talking about God. What is God? God's, how do I connect to God? How do I understand God's benevolence, God's love? So try to learn about that. In my yeshiva, we had this program, it was called We learned emunah. We learned faith. And the goal was to strengthen our faith through learning. Later on, when I went to university, they said, you're not learning faith, you're learning philosophy. And it was like a little bit of a switch. But in yeshiva, that was the focus. They want us to learn these principles so we could strengthen our faith and our connection. So those are two tips. One is like in the moment to move your body, engage your body, if that works for you. And also like to focus on like what you're saying, what you're davening, and like the content behind it. A few ones that we didn't mention before. Some of them, here's a few that work for me. Every once in a while, I'll read the prayers sometimes in English. That sounds funny, but like certain parts of the prayers that you can read in English, sometimes when you're reading in Hebrew, you don't always pay attention to exactly what you're saying because you do it all the time in Hebrew and you just end up just saying it. Take a break every once in a while, see what's going on, read the English, and it can connect you or a language that works for you. I sometimes do that, and I find it very beneficial, especially when I have like a little bit more time. Another tip is, here's a good one. I used to do this a lot. I don't have as much time to do this now because like everyone's kind of like waiting for me to finish so they can like get on with the repetition. But when I was in yeshiva, I used to do this a lot. In your prayer book, you can insert in Amida, you can insert your own prayers because this can help you with intentions. You're praying for Am Yisrael to get healing. In that prayer about healing, you can insert prayers about that topic of healing. And you'll see in some Sephardic prayer books, they have other prayers inserted in there. The Shema Kolenu prayer, in the one about God hearing our prayers, you can insert all kinds of prayers in there. So at a certain time, I was like working on that a lot, like inserting a lot of different prayers in that point. So that can help you also, because sometimes it's hard to connect to what we're saying. But if you can insert a personal piece there, it can be very powerful. Here are just like two more, a very technical one, but sometimes people find this helpful, is like pointing. Right, just pointing word by word. Sometimes it's like, and for me, this helps sometimes too. It's like, I'll start davening before I know it, I'm already in Ritzeh, and like, like almost near the end of davening, like, what just happened? So point your finger, and if you do, sometimes it can help you really concentrate. It sounds simple, but it can be helpful. I guess one more would be about location in the synagogue. So it's good to have a set spot that you go to. I think our people are pretty careful with that and having a set spot. But nevertheless, like throughout the year, when you're coming every time, try to find a constant spot that's very powerful. And also, here's one that is an important one that maybe we should be more careful with. Find a spot that will be not next to a neighbor that might distract you from having intention. I'm serious about that. Davening is about us standing in front of God, us having intention in front of God. And that Kabbalistic yeshiva, the Arizal yeshiva, there's this saying, like a family that prays together, stay together, friends that pray together. It's good to stay together. We also want to stay with Hashem. And in those minions, I saw them praying. They would just stand them in front of Hashem. And it's a moment to be in front of Hashem. Pray for the world, pray for yourself, and find that like quiet moment. And sometimes in those quiet moments, you can find the deepest connection to Hashem.